Good evening to you from the bunker. A little shifting gears tonight as far as the video goes. I'm going to link below a video with an interview with a man named Charles Nenner. And I'm going to discuss that and basically give the skinny of this whole video. Because the video he did, he was being interviewed, I should say. It was over 40 minutes long. And I've had many of the followers of our channel send it to me. So I thought it'd be good to go ahead and give my 2 cents worth and kind of explain some things that are going through it. All right, first of all, Charles Nenner is a financial analyst. He started the Charles Nenner Research Center, and he looks at markets. That's his primary thing. But from there, he sees trends. And I really think that when I think of gifts that I have, that's one of the gifts I have too. I love seeing trends, see which way things are going, and it helps me get a better understanding of how the world works. And he has the same type of analysis that I do, or vice versa. Maybe I'm more like him, I suppose, because that's his life. You know, that's his whole means of living. Whereas for me, it's just kind of like a hobby, I guess. And he's going to talk about all kinds of markets. And besides markets, he also talks about what are called war cycles. Every so many years, a major war pops up. And I'll be getting to that soon, because that is actually probably the brunt of the video that I really got from it that I want you to hear about. But I want to talk about some of the other stuff he mentioned first, as far as different markets. For example, he said that the stock market is crashing, and it's going to crash big time. And he said for those people who actually depend on the stock market for buying and selling and making a living, it's already too late to sell all your stocks. In other words, you can sell them, but you're going to have a huge loss. He said the crash is coming in just a few weeks, which is interesting and devastating if it happens. He said the Dow Jones is going to go all the way down to 5,000, which last I checked, it's over 30,000, which is a huge drop. He said oil will continue to rise. I think we all kind of suspected that was going to be so much. He said, but we're actually going to have a lull very soon, where it's going to go up, lull, may even go back a little bit, then it's going to kick back up and skyrocket again. So maybe it's time to fill up some extra gas cans and such. He said natural gas is going to go even higher, though. That's actually really going to go high. And we've started seeing those trends, too, because basically as Europe doesn't have enough natural gas heat to make it through this winter. On a scarier note, inflation will continue to rise. He said toward the end of the year, it's going to lull and then go back up again. But he said that inflation is going to continue to rise for the next, ready for this, 30 years. 30 years of inflation. He said the government's probably going to clock it at about 12.5%, which is up from I think they said 8.5% last time. And if they're measuring at 12.5%, then it's probably more like 200%. I'm being facetious. It's going to be a lot, because of course they try to make it look like it's not so bad. But could you imagine 30 years of this type of inflation? 30 years of it. And that's what his institute says is probably going to happen. Gold and silver, he said, will soon hit its bottom. It's going to bottom out very soon. Then increase until about 2027. And it's supposed to go quite high. Now, he didn't say how high he thinks it's going to go, but he said that if we actually go back onto the gold standard, which a lot of people are talking about this, it could actually go incredibly high for those people who have gold. You're going to be cashing in big time if we get back in the gold standard, which of course there's no guarantee. He said real estate market will fall soon. He said it's been going up. Personally, I don't think that's the case. That's where something I disagree with him. When you look at the different type of markets, I actually have a video I made too. I'm going to link it at the very end of this video. I'll bring it up, where it talks about the different market trends and how the 3 different markets, being real estate, commodities, and stocks, are always going through a 3 rotation for those 3. And right now, I think, and from what I see, we're actually in a real estate boom market. And that's what we're seeing right now anyway. But he's saying that boom is going to stop very soon. Maybe so. I don't think so, but he might be right. Other cycles, he said unemployment will continue to rise. The pandemic, we should be good about that one, because he said basically a pandemic cycle is every 100 years, so we just finished that one. He said that civil unrest basically pops up every 60 years, so we're about to actually hit a really big one on top of what we've already seen in the last year or two. And here's an interesting one too. They talked about how massive people are going to be dying soon trying to protect their property, either real estate property or their tangible assets, either way. And right now we're seeing massive amounts of stores being looted, and the government's not doing anything about this. And he's saying that it's just a matter of time before people take that into their own hands, which I agree with that too. But, you have to wonder how much we should do trying to defend our property. It's always a fine line, you know what I'm saying? Okay, let's get into the scary part, the war cycle. And he said that basically a war cycle always takes place at the second decade of a new century. Every time a new century starts, 20 years-ish later, here we go. And of course, he's looking at a projection for World War III, which is something we've been talking about in this channel for some time. Now, he says he doesn't know why. He doesn't understand why the trend happens this way. He just sees the trend, which I respect that. You know, sometimes you don't see where the trends come from. You just simply see a change in the markets and such. But if you actually look at the wars, he said it goes all the way back 5,000 years ago. And more recent history, the Napoleonic War fit into that category, the American Civil War, World War I leading to World War II also fit in that category. And he said it doesn't even count the smaller wars, like Enduring Freedom, Korea, Vietnam, which I'm not calling those wars small, but compared to a world war they are. And it doesn't even count those. So he said that we're looking at a major war starting this summer, which could be already in place with Ukraine and Russia, but maybe it's basically infringing onto NATO, but definitely escalating next year. That's what he says. World War III is going to be really kicking it in gear by next year. And here is the biggest thing that he put out for this. This is the shocker that everybody's talking about. He said that because of this, 1/3 of the earth will die. 1/3 of the earth will die. Okay, now he says he has a formula for this, but he didn't show the formula, which is fine. He doesn't always have to show every single thing that he has, especially if he's a market analyst. He wants to be able to keep some of his stuff private. But I don't know. I personally, this is just me, my opinion. I don't see how 1/3 of the population is going to die. Now, in a major war, we could actually have millions die, millions. Or if there's a huge nuclear exchange, everybody is going to die. But I think if that does happen, it would actually have to be a limited nuclear exchange. That's the only way I can see this happening, by the way. We're looking at 2 billion people on the planet dead. More than 2 billion, mind you. About 2.5 billion dead. And if you have a limited nuclear exchange, it could do that. But I don't know. Our nuclear exchanges are not set up to be limited. Send one or two over, or all of them go. And that's basically how the strategic defense and everything has been set up. So when he says 1/3 of the planet will die, for me, I'm skeptical. You know, I always try to say that my thing is I listen to everybody. I listen to everybody. Don't follow anybody purposely, but listen to everything. So I'm not discounting it. But for me, just the way I understand trends and such, I'm skeptical on that part. I don't know, but I could be completely wrong. But either way, you have to understand that turbulent times are coming. And I believe that coming from 2020 up until now, we've barely seen anything yet. Far worse is coming. And that's what frightens me. And they actually asked him, so what can we do about this? And he said, there's nothing you can do. Because, you know, when you talk about prepping, you're prepping food. How long are you going to prep for? A year? 2? Do you have 5 years worth of prep? He said this inflation is going to last 30 years. Just think of the Great Depression lasting 30 years. Inflation, 30 years. I know it's going to be incredibly difficult for everybody. So I always try to stress, and this is what I really want to focus on the channel this summer more than anything else, is don't focus on, oh my gosh, look at this little thing here. You really need to develop a strategy for lifelong means to be able to counteract any problems that you're having in this world. That's what Goshen prepping is about. We do prep for the short term, 72 hours, a month, a year. 5 years is still short term, but you also have to prep for things in the future, like be able to filter your own water, provide for your own food with seeds, orchards, hunting. The list goes on and on. That's what you really should be trying to shoot for goals. And I put videos out. These should be your goals as far as being preppers go. But I find that most people are just trying to like focus on short term. How many cans of peaches should I stock up? How many bags of rice? Which is good. But you need to shift on the long term. He's saying 30 years for this. 30 years. And he said there's nothing we can do about this. It's coming. All right, anyway, I did mention that at the end of the video, we're going to look at some other markets. I have a video about market trends. Let's go ahead and check out that video. And thanks for watching. I'd like to hear your input on his whole video as well.